Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Right, here we are, folks. You're tuned here to find out what the heck does it all mean? What's really going on? Why is all of this happening? And you've come to the right place. I am happy to provide for you my insight and analysis. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network, here at 1-800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. You know, I've been thinking about something since last night. I saw Rudy Giuliani on Megyn Kelly's show on Fox last night, and he was going on about how he is friendly with so many people involved in all this. He's friends here, friends there. Talked about the Republican nomination and then the various candidates. And I know so many of them. They're close friends. And it got me to thinking. He's exactly right. It makes this challenging. And I've even had, I get all kinds of criticism, which is fine. But some of it, Rush, I don't know. You've got to know some of these people. How do we know that you don't secretly prefer one over the other when you're not being upfront and honest about it? Because you know these people. And I can understand people with that sentiment. So let me run through this, because I have definite opinions about what is happening here, and I want to share them with you. And it's tough. Just to be flat out honest, it's very hard when you know everybody involved and when you consider them friends. Sometimes I tell you, it's much easier when you don't know. I mean, you have no relationship. You have no personal friendship relationship with any of the people about whom you opine or comment. But in this case, that doesn't apply to me. Let's start with Roger Ailes at Fox News. Roger Ailes, I have known since 1990. Roger Ailes is one of my closest, dearest friends. We confide in each other in quite a lot. We don't see each other as much as we would like, but we communicate regularly. And I have endless respect and admiration for Roger Ailes, but it has not stopped me from being critical of certain things I see or hear on Fox. And he's never once called me and said, hey, what are you doing? By the same token, I, as you well know, over the years have been criticized, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, by any number of people at Fox. And I've never called Roger. And I said, hey, what's going on? I wouldn't think of it. I wouldn't think of calling Roger. Hey, would you stop him from saying what he... It would never cross my mind. And by the same token, he has never done anything like that here. Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly was at my wedding. She has been in my home a couple of times. I know her and her husband, Doug, and I know of his efforts in writing novels. I've read them. I've talked about them. I have intimate, profound respect for her career and what she's trying to do and how she's going about it. Trump. I've known Donald Trump for years, and I like him. I have never been angry at him. I have laughed. I have been amazed. I've had every reaction to Trump that you've had. Some of it up close and personal. I haven't divulged many of those stories. It's nothing super personal. It's just I don't routinely speak out of school without permission. Ted Cruz. I have broken bread with Ted Cruz. I have been around him a number of times, like him immensely, am dazzled by his intellect and his commitment. And his conservatism is unchallenged by anybody in this race. Marco Rubio, ditto. Marco Rubio has been here, as has Mitt Romney been here, as has Rand Paul been here. And they have all opened up and been very honest with me. In some cases off the record, which I always respect, and I never even try to sneak off the record stuff into conversations about them, and it works both ways. And by who else? Jeb Bush, the entire Bush family. I can't begin to tell you all of the things the Bush family made possible for me. Trips to the White House. I mean, I don't care. Folks, career aside, I have such reverence for this country. I consider it an honor to be at the White House each and every time I've been there, and for whatever reason. And I always feel a sense of gratitude for whoever made it possible. George W. Bush had me to the White House his final year in office on my birthday, the private lunch, which I've talked about before, in the presidential dining room off of the Oval Office with Ed Gillespie, and they had a special chocolate microphone cake that they brought out. And there have been the White House Christmas parties, Lincoln bedroom, George H.W. Bush. I mean, I can't pretend these things have not happened. And I have always considered myself to be well-mannered and polite and respectful. And I am appreciative of the graciousness and the opportunities that have been offered and presented to me by a host of people that I otherwise would not have been able to experience. Look, I don't want to leave anybody out. Dr. Carson, met Ben Carson 2 or 3 times, interviewed him for the Limbaugh letter, the most widely read political newsletter in all of the United States. And Catherine has been with Dr. Carson at a number of homeschool conventions where we feature the Rush Revere series and get to know that group of people as we work with people to try to make sure the proper history of this country is taught at the youngest ages, to combat what's happening in the public school system and all the way up to the university level. I've known John Kasich since John Kasich used to come up to my office with Frank Luntz back at 2 Penn Plaza to talk about strategy and messaging back when they were part of the Republican freshman class, 1994, 1995. Newt hosted dinners in his office at the Capitol when he was Speaker with Mr. and Mrs. Buckley and me. It became a yearly tradition for a few years to do dinner with that group at a different location each year. Henry Kissinger, Mr. Buckley himself, members of his family, the people at National Review, I've known since I started doing this program. Over the American Spectator, Bob Tyrrell, Brent Bozell and his crowd at the Media Research Center and Newsbusters. And there's not a one of them that is in any way approaching an enemy. I mean, some of the blogs, Ed Morrissey over at Hot Air. I know Eric Erickson, who guest hosts this program. He was at Red State, and his lifelong dream was to guest host this program, which he's done, so now he's going into retirement. My point, look, I don't want to leave anybody out. Who else in the presidential field mentioned? Chris Christie has called me enraged on the phone, but I've been at a strategy planning session with Chris Christie and some of his supporters way back. I can't mention some of the people that were there, but there are other Fox News people and so forth that I have met over the course of Britt Hume. I mean, Rick Santorum, well, the huckster I've not really met. I've been the recipient of caustic phone calls from the huckster. But, I mean, who else? Dr. Krauthammer, met at Tony Snow's funeral for the first time. And now, not all of these people are what I would call close friends that I'm in daily contact with. Don't misunderstand. But I know them. And in some cases, some of them have been very critical of me on occasion over the years, and vice versa. But there's not a one of them who I consider a problem or an enemy, and there's not a one of them that I worry about if I have to be honest here about what I think. And I guess the best illustration would be Roger. Fox News starts in 1996. Roger was the executive producer of my TV show from 1992 to 1996. And we went through all kinds of wars and battles there. We've stayed and remained extremely close friends. Now, knowing that, I know a lot of you watch Fox, and you've watched me get ripped over the coals, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, but by guests, by Fox analysts, employees, or what have you. Not once. I wouldn't even dream of calling Roger and say, hey, what's going on? Would you make those people, what was this for? And by the same token, I don't think he would have. He has never called me. So what are you beating up on Fox News for? He's never done it. There's I don't know what you call it. It's mutual respect or professional understanding or what have you. But it's just understood that everybody involved, you have to be honest what you really think, and you can't allow, and it's hard, you can't allow personal knowledge, friendships, some cases relationships, to get in the way of what I consider to be honest commentary. And the reason I'm setting all this up, because this is stuff that's happening here with Trump and Fox News and Megyn Kelly. I can't avoid discussing it. And there's no sense in me coming here and trying to disguise what I really think. And I have to tell you what I really think of what's going on here. And it is something that I wanted to put all this out there and get it on the table, that this doesn't happen in a vacuum. And it does involve talking about people that that I know, that I have gotten to know pretty well, and that I like and respect, but sometimes they do things I don't understand. It doesn't affect the friendship or relationship, at least as far as I'm concerned. People's degrees of sensitivity differ from person to person. I, for example, couldn't care less when anybody says or writes about me. That train left the station like 25 years ago, but other people are hyper concerned about it. And if you start taking things like that into account, see, to me, folks, it's you. And when in these 3 hours, it's all about you. This program's done for you, not to protect, condemn, attack, shield any of these people that are the newsmakers that I happen to know. Because at the end of the day, if you begin to doubt the honesty, veracity that I bring to this program in commentary, and if you don't trust it, then it doesn't do me any good. So that's why the setup here. Having said all that, let me take a break, and we'll come back and establish what's really happening here with Trump and not doing the debate, and the way it's been reacted to, what's really going on. Is there an explanation for it? Is it good or bad? Does it hurt Trump? Does it help Trump? Does it hurt Fox News? Does it help Fox News? What does it mean for the other candidates? What does it mean for people that are going to be on the stage tomorrow that Trump is Trump really not going to show up? Could there be some last-minute faith-saving accord that is put together by some of the principals that we don't know? All kinds of things here are possible. We got audio sound bites from across the media spectrum. Some think, and many of the people who think Trump is doing genius things here are members of the drive-by media who work at CNN and the Washington Post, who really don't like Fox News. So everybody's opinion is out there, and you understand what their possible motivations are. But there are basic elements of this that are what they are, despite what any opinion maker says or analyst says about them. And like I'm still sifting through all of this and attempting to make some sense of it and explain it to myself in a satisfactory way, just as I'm going to attempt to do with you here. So a brief time out. Did I leave anybody out of this? I'm sure I've left Ben. I didn't start mentioning names. Well, no, Snurdly, I don't know everybody. For example, there are people running on the Republican side I haven't met, I don't think. I've not met Carly. I have not met Carly Fiorina. I have played golf next to Carly Fiorina's house in Hawaii, but I didn't know if she was there or not. I've waved. I say, hey, Carly, Rush Limbaugh, as I drive the cart pits, like the 18th hole, I think, somewhere, Big Island. I've had many sit-downs with Lindsey Graham. George Pataki asked me for one of my ties back in the old TV show days. So there's none of them, folks. Some of them I support, some of them I don't for elective office for president, but I don't dislike any of them. And even if I did, it wouldn't and shouldn't impact, influence. No, I'm not making excuses for it. What do you mean making excuses? No. I'm trying to explain what follows this is objective, is what I'm trying to tell you. Let me take a break. We'll come back and continue after this. Do not go away. Your guiding light through times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, tumult, and despair. Rush Limbaugh here behind the golden EIB microphone. Okay, where are we on the situation here with Trump and the debate? So far, Trump says he's not showing up. He claims he's not showing up because Megyn Kelly is going to continue to be a moderator. And if you believe that, I can give you substantive reasons. And it's all in the art of the deal. Trump is not that hard to understand if you pay attention to him and read his books. In the art of the deal, one of the things that he makes a huge deal about is being able to know when to walk away and having the guts and the courage to do it. Trump is so far outside the formula that has been established for American politics that people who are inside the formula can't comprehend it. They don't understand why somebody would want to venture so far outside it, because it is what it is, and there's a ladder of success that you have to climb. And somebody challenging it like this, in more ways than one, as Trump is doing, is just got everybody experiencing every kind of emotion you can. They're angry, they are flabbergasted, they're shocked, they're stunned, and all of it because he's leading. Everything he's doing goes against the book. Everything that any analyst or consultant or professional would tell you not to do, Donald Trump is doing it, and he's leading the pack. This creates its own set of emotions and feelings, thoughts that run from person to person. Now, the political business, if you want to look at it that way, is like any other business. It has its people who are considered the elites in it. And like any business, they hate outsiders. They don't want outsiders just storming in, trying to take over, and much less succeeding at it. Like any group of elites, they're exclusionary. They want to keep people out. They want to be in charge of who gets in the club. They want to be in charge of who's allowed to rise or climb the ladder in the club. Politics is no different. And all of those determinations are made by who gets money and who doesn't. But Trump is functioning totally outside this structure that has existed for decades. And as such, the people who are only familiar with the structure and believe in it and cherish it and want to protect it feel threatened in ways that you can't even comprehend. So that leads them to try to figure out, how is all this working for Trump? Why do his followers grow? Why does his support expand every time he busts a rule wide open? Don't go away. Back in a minute. At the cutting edge, Rush Limbaugh, the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. It probably is necessary, but let me again say that whatever I say today about this or anything else today is not coming from a position of support for any candidate or opposition to any candidate. So whatever I happen to say about what I think of Trump skipping the debate, the reaction to it, it's not rooted in, and don't even consider that it's rooted in the fact that you think I might be doing it in support of Trump or in opposition to Trump or support of Cruz or anybody else. It's none of that. You've heard the phrase, the game. Every business has aspects of it that are considered the game, and that's the routine. And the game is characterized by everybody knowing the rules of the game. And people involved in it play by the rules. Some venture outside now and then, but the rules pretty much of the game are adhered to because it's a matter of respect for the game in which everybody is in. And in this business, one of the games is that when the media calls, you answer. And when the media wants you, you go. And when the media is going to host a debate and it's part of a Republican presidential campaign, you go. You just do it. No matter what the media has done to you in the past, no matter what you think of it, no matter whether you want to go or not, you go. That's the game. Trump is so far outside this game. He's so far outside the rules. He's never been a player in this game. He's always been an outsider. I've heard people on Fox last night talk about this. Who does he think he is? He can't control the media. I got news for you. He is controlling the media. And it's his objective. He is controlling the media. He controls the media when he's not on it. He controls the media when he is on it. He controls the media when he's asleep. Nobody else has been able to do anything like this short of the Kennedys. And they're pikers compared to the way Trump is doing this. Now, it's very simple. If you read The Art of the Deal, or if you know Donald Trump at all, it's very simple. He had an unpleasant experience in the first debate, and in his mind, the question that he was asked was rigged. Don't forget, before that first debate, remember all of the news stories that were floating around saying that debate, somebody at Fox had been given orders by the Republican establishment to take Trump out. Remember that? There were any number of so-called sources for this. Some said it was the donors demanding it. Some said that it was Fox News executives demanding it. Some said it was the RNC demanding it. But the news, well, Trump's not immune. He hears it. And even if he hadn't heard it, he would have to know that they want to take him out. He's outside the game. He's breaking all the rules. He's exposing so much as fraud that has gone on inside the American political process so I can't allow somebody like this to win and succeed. It's quite natural they would want to take him out as well. Politics, it's Bengals Steelers time here, folks. It's quite natural they'd want to take. Well, he heard it. Here comes Megyn Kelly's first question. He didn't hear anybody else get a question like that. He never sees Hillary Clinton get a question like that. He never hears Bill Clinton or any other Democrat get a question like that. So he answers it and he says, screw this. I'm not putting myself in that position again. Why should I? I don't have to. But the rules of the game say when there's a debate, you show us, screw the rules, he's saying. Why should I willingly give them another shot at me in a circumstance they control? Why should I do it? What's the sense in it for me? I'm leading. I'm running the pack here. Why in the world should I put myself in that circumstance? I've already seen what's going to happen. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. It might be. I mean, there could be some personal things going on here that I don't know about. But just from the standpoint of knowing Trump, reading his book, and seeing how he operates elsewhere, in his mind, screw the rules, screw what's expected, screw this is just the way you do it. I'm not going to put myself in a position again where I'm going to be treated unfairly. I don't have to. I'm Donald Trump. Anybody can do this. Ted Cruz could choose to do it if he wants to. They just don't. Cruz and the rest of the pack are playing the rules of the game. Trump is saying, I don't have to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't have any respect for these people. What the hell? In addition to that, Donald Trump knows that by not showing up, he's owning the entire event. Some guy not even present will end up owning the entire event. And the proof of that is Fox News last night. I have to tell you, folks, this is where this gets tough for me. I was stunned watching Fox News last night. Fox News was acting like they had been jilted at the altar. If it had been me, and this is easy to say, If it had been me and Donald Trump makes a big to-do about not showing up to the debate, report the story and move on. Talk about Ted Cruz. Go talk about the other candidates. Go talk about Hillary and the FBI. There's a lot of news out there. But don't devote the rest of the night to how a candidate's not showing up because of you. I mean the network, not just Megyn Kelly. Then they bring in the analysts to analyze what it all means. And I'm watching this, and I'm really, this is very hard for me to say here. I'm stunned watching this. Because everybody has to know, everybody's involved has to know that this is exactly one of the things Trump is hoping to achieve. And then bringing Michael Moore on late in that program to mock Trump. Look, I understand the warfare that has been established here. If you look at some of the things that Trump's campaign spokesman, Corey Lewandowski, has said, if you read between the lines, it looks like what really has ticked him off over at Trump Central is the mocking of Trump in the official PR statements that Fox has released, making fun. Well, they're going to call Putin, they're going to call the Ayatollah, and the Ayatollah and Putin, whatever. It was. I think that might have been the nail in the coffin, as opposed to any lack of desire to face Megyn Kelly. But here's, folks, one other thing about this. If I heard it once last night, I've heard it 1,000 times since, that Trump is afraid of Megyn Kelly or afraid of Fox. That is not what this is. There isn't any fear. What there is here, my opinion, is a desire to control this and a purposeful decision to not put himself in a circumstance where other people want to make him look bad. In his mind, that's a dumb thing to do. You don't put yourself in a circumstance where a whole bunch of other people are going to be able to make you look bad while you're there. And if they do it when you're not around, that's another thing. You can counter-program it. You can do whatever. But you don't have to put yourself in a circumstance where you have to personally deal with it as a sign of disrespect or somebody else trying to notch their belt. It really isn't any more complicated than that. Now, Trump's out there talking about how they're desperate to have him because high ratings mean a lot of advertising revenue. Lower ratings means lower advertising revenue because Fox has to charge less. They were hoping to get $750,000 a minute, I heard. They may be down to $150,000 a minute if Trump isn't there. I mean, these are examples of kind of the things going around. Now, should Trump be there or not? That's a whole other question. Is Trump right in avoiding some place that makes him look bad or has the potential to make him look bad? Is it a smart move? Is it a bad move? Well, is it a smart move in terms of Iowa? I heard last night, this is another thing. I'm sorry, I went in one ear and out the other. You know, the people of Iowa are not going to like the people of Iowa. People of Iowa, they're not going to take it very well. A guy purposely avoiding them. That's what Trump's doing. He's avoiding the people of Iowa. People of Iowa, he's not avoiding the people. Come on, he's not avoiding the people of Iowa. He's all over Iowa. A guy who does more TV and radio than any other candidate out there. So I don't think there's fear, and I don't think it's disrespect for the people of Iowa. It is simple. This is what it looks like when some guy stands up to the rules and the game and says, screw yours, I'm looking out for me first. That's all this is. And you can say whatever you want, but I am not dumb. I'm not going to give you the gun and the bullet and stand still. You want to hit me? Come get me. But I'm not going to put myself in your line of fire. That's what he's doing. If you ask me, quick time out. We'll be back. Don't go away. Before we get to the phones here real quickly, and we've just scratched the surface on this. There's a lot to add to this because there's news elements now that add to it. But I routinely am asked in the email by people in the audience, why don't you do more TV? Why you're never on TV? And there's an answer for that. I don't want to. And the reason I don't, why would I go someplace where I know exactly whatever they tell me they want to talk to me about, I know it's not going to be that. Why would I go someplace that I know doesn't support me, doesn't like me, disagrees with me, would love to embarrass me or damage my credit? Why should I do that? I have no desire. But the rules say, when there's a camera, TV, you got to go on to. No, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't like it. And I certainly don't want to reward the people who have been spreading misquotes, lies for years. Why should I help them? That's me personally. That's why I don't do a whole lot of TV. Folks, you wouldn't believe the number of times a week that we turn down invitations here. I don't mention it because there's never been a reason to, but it's appropriate now to tell you since I get questions about it anyway. It's all about not rewarding people who I know do not have my best interest in heart, who I know have no interest in anything other than notching their belt. Why help them? Especially when I don't like doing makeup anyway. So for me, it's a no-brainer. And it's also easy. I don't have to go on TV to be seen or heard. So I'm fortunate in that regard. A lot of people, the only way they can be seen or heard is to go on TV. And they end up loving it and so forth. It's never captivated me. Anyway, to the phones. I want to get started on phones early here because people I know have their own thoughts and questions. We're going to start with Peter in Seattle. Thanks for calling, sir. You're up first, and hello.
Thank you, Rush. It's wonderful to talk to you on a day like today. It's always, I'm always excited to hear your guidance and your view on things.
Thank you, sir, very much.
My view is basically that Megyn Kelly needs to step out of the way of this story. We're talking about the presidential race, leadership of this country. If somebody needs to be able to take a shot at Trump, it's Cruz and it's the other candidates. Megyn had her chance in the first debate. I don't believe she laid a glove on him. She may want a rematch, but Trump's the champ, and the card is the other candidates.
Okay, so you're serious? You think that Megyn, on what basis? For what reason should Megyn say, I guess you're saying she should announce that she is removing herself from the moderator's table, and maybe...
I think that would be a very journalistically ethical thing to do.
Oh, no. That would, Now, look, let's construct a scenario here. Let's put your idea together in an actual hypothetical, okay? Let's examine it. Let's say later today, Fox News and Megyn Kelly jointly announce that in the interests of the country, in the interests of the Republican presidential contest, that she is taking the great move of removing herself because she doesn't want to be the reason the people of Iowa are not permitted an opportunity to see one of the candidates. Can you see something like that happen? There is just no way anything like this. The rules of this game I'm talking about, folks, the media run this game. The media are never to blame for anything that goes wrong. They have total immunity where this all is concerned. The media, in their minds, and the way everybody plays the game, you have to go through the media to get where you want to go if you are in politics. You have to, and you have to bite your lip along the way. And if you don't, then you have made a perpetual enemy of people, as goes the saying, who buy ink by the barrel. In this case, cable news, airwaves by the minute, whatever the analogy would be. The media does not look at themselves as an obstacle. The media looks at themselves as part of the obstacle course anybody has to pass in order to get where they want to go in politics. And Trump is saying, I don't like those. Who says I have to go through you? Who says I have to look good according to what you say? Who says I have to get to the American people through you? Why can't I just do my own event, buy my own microphone, my own camera, my own time, and talk to the American people without you? Seems to me a lot more efficient, and more importantly, I control it, and I don't have to deal with people maybe misrepresenting me or putting me in a bad light. The other players in the game who have always abided by these rules are shocked and dismayed that somebody would mock the game this way and upset it like this. This cannot stand, and so forth. But no journalist is ever going to take themselves out. I don't think they should, by the way. You might consider it to be super patriots. But don't forget, one of my favorite journalism stories of all time, Bernard Shaw, was in the Al Rashid Hotel during the first Gulf War. It was one of our targets. He got out of there. The U.S. military got Bernard Shaw out. When he got home, the U.S. military wanted to debrief him to find out what he had seen about the enemy. And he said, I refuse. That would compromise my journalistic ethics. What do you mean journalistic? Well, I can't help one side over it. What is your own country in a war, for crying out loud? Sorry, I cannot help. Not even realizing that it's his own country's constitution permitting him to do what he's doing. But he couldn't compromise his ethics to help his own country. I've never forgotten that. No, I know the guy from Seattle, Peter. His point was that journalists should not be the story. Hey, folks, that ship sailed long ago back with Dan Rather and Sam Donaldson. You can pine away, but that's all you'll be doing. Hi, folks. Welcome back. Great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh and the one and only Excellence in Broadcasting Network. It's great to have you here. It always is, where we meet and surpass all audience expectations every day, and been doing it for 27 years now, into our 28th. Our telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Now, just to review, I understood the point that our first caller was making. Peter from Seattle was his name. And he basically said, look, Megyn Kelly ought to just bump out of this. This is not about her. It's about the candidates. We've got a presidential campaign going on here. And people want to find out what these candidates think, not what the moderators think. And I understand that his real point was not that she should be gracious and back out. His point was that reporters shouldn't be the ones making news. And on that basis, reporters ought to just step aside here. You know, moderate it, fine. Just ring the bell when time's up. And other than that, let it go. Let it be a free-for-all. Let it be a real debate, not an elongated Sunday show. And a lot of people have this view. But see, this is my point in the first hour. The game, the rules, the way this is all evolved, the media does control who gets access. The media does control. You've heard it. You've called here and complained about it. The Republicans have to not only beat the Democrats, have to beat the media. And you complained about that to the Republicans, and what do they tell you? Yeah, that's just the way it is. Yeah, I know, but that's our cross to bear. Well, Trump is saying, screw it. I'm not playing that game. It's a guaranteed loser. I'm not running against Megyn Kelly. I'm not running against Brit Hume. I'm not running against Chris Wallace. And I don't want them to act like they are running against me. But see, the game has evolved in such a way now that the media does have this prominent role. I mean, they determine what is news, they determine what isn't news, and they determine what you hear about the news in terms of commentary. And they used to have a monopoly on it. Now they don't, which has made them, I think, even more partisan, openly partisan. They've always been partisan. It's making them more openly partisan than they've ever been. But here comes Trump outside the parameters of all of this, outside the boundaries. He's not playing the game. He's done it. He's played the game. He's been a good boy up until now. But this, for whatever reasons that he cites, is too much. But don't kid yourself. This isn't over. There are negotiations going on. The UK Daily Mail has a story here that the feud that Trump is having with Fox News has resulted in Roger Ailes calling his wife and daughter in an attempt to get him back to the debate. Headline of the story: Donald Trump feud causes panicking Fox News CEO to call Ivanka and Melania in an attempt to get the frontrunner back to the debate. But Trump says he will only speak to Murdoch. Donald Trump's refusal to attend the debate on Thursday night has sent Fox News into chaos. Well, now let's look at that. I mean, because in some people's minds, that's what the Daily Mail's reporting, UK Daily Mail. We've cited them as a credible, really good publication. Let's take a look at this from a number of different angles, shall we? Trump says that he's not going to participate in the Fox News debate on Thursday, and instead he's going to be raising money for vets. Stated reason: Megyn Kelly is going to be a moderator, and he doesn't want to go through that again, whatever it is. Now, over here, let's not forget there's a presidential race long after the primaries are over, and for all we know, Trump's already begun to run that. And one thing that Trump knows is that Democrats and liberals despise Fox News. They hate it. Fox News is Satan to them. Fox News is the Antichrist. It's irrational, but they literally hate Fox News. It's on the brain. I'm sure Roger Moore last night had to get tetanus shots and all other kinds of inoculations before. Michael Moore, what did I say? Roger Moore. Oh, yeah, that's definitely not Roger Moore. Yeah, Michael Moore. I'm sure he had to go in there and get shots before he walked in the building. Thinking Trump might be making a play to broaden his base for the general election. Some people may think that's what's going on, which no votes have been cast yet. But what if Trump already thinks he's got this wrapped up? And he's already running the general campaign now. I don't think that's the case, but some people are going to be analyzing it that way. Maybe Trump is just ticked off in general about something, and Megyn Kelly and Fox happen to be the target today for what is ticking him off. Maybe he's fed up with what he hears from everybody on Fox about himself. Who knows? Is it strategic? Is it personal? Is it both? Bottom line is nobody does this. In the process, Trump has taken charge of the media. While the media is out there saying, you don't get to control the media, Trump is controlling the media. Nobody gets to control the media. Yeah, they do. If they can. You telling me that Bill Clinton hasn't controlled the media, that Barack Obama doesn't control the media? Don't make me laugh. But nobody has sliced this, Donald. Trump is the story. He's the story when he's there. He's the story when he's not there. Telling Fox News he doesn't want to be there is a story. He says he's got endorsements to announce. You know what? I don't have time for you people at Fox, but this guy, this evangelist over here, Falwell Jr., in my camp. Guy's smart. Guy loves me. Best evangelist going. Better than any evangelist out there because he endorsed me. You know the drill. So here we are. He's trailing in Iowa in some polls. Some polls he's ahead in Iowa. Regards nip and tuck. He's in the process of orchestrating massive media attention on his terms just before the caucuses on Monday night. He hasn't won Iowa. And for all we know, he's still a few points behind. People say if he wins Iowa, that means he's going to run the table and win the whole shebang. Ted Cruz is out saying that's a possibility. It's why you've got to vote for me. Don't waste your vote on any of these other Republicans up here, Cruz. You've got to vote for me. By the way, if Trump actually doesn't show up, and I think it's still an open question, it's another thing. You don't know for sure what's going to happen until the thing starts and he's not there. And even then, you don't know if he'll try to join the thing in progress. I mean, look, folks, where Trump is concerned, there aren't any rules. And if there are, he has no problem blowing past them. Now, just recently, Donald Trump was talking about how he's the guy, he could make deals. He could do deals with Harry Reid. He could do deals with Nancy Pelosi. He could do deals with Chuck Schumer. I would expect tomorrow night we'll hear Ted Cruz speak a lot about that. Cruz will probably ask, doing deals with Schumer, Pelosi, is that how we're going to make America great again? The risk Trump runs not showing up is that there will be nobody to rebut whatever anybody says about him from the other candidates. But he's obviously tossed that into the calculations that he has made. How's it going to play with the caucus goers? Well, that's like trying to analyze why Trump supporters hang with him through everything that he does or doesn't do. Nobody knows any of this stuff yet. All of this, much of it in a real sense, is unprecedented, which is why a lot of people are so unnerved by it. Now, there are people that hate Trump, too. And for them, Megyn Kelly's a hero. And for them, Fox News is the greatest thing to come down the pike. There are people who despise Trump. Republicans, conservatives think Trump is dangerous. The worst thing could possibly happen. Oh, my. So all of this that Fox is doing, they love it. They're supporting it. Don't doubt that Fox has their allies in this. Fox is getting plaudits from all over the place. But Fox is making it clear they would rather have Trump there. They're disappointed Trump isn't going to show up. For whatever reasons, take your pick. But right now, Trump has positioned himself in you can almost say that he is beyond news. You can't just cover Trump from the prism of news. You have to cover Trump also through the entertainment prism. And Megyn Kelly, she herself has been featured on the covers of many pop culture magazines and websites. That is called broadening the base. That's called reaching out beyond the confines of what people think a news anchor is. That's called redefining and resetting the table for the purposes of marketing and expanding the number of people that might tune in. I mean, Fox News would love to have viewers that are interested in things other than just the news. I mean, how else are they going to grow their audience? So you could argue that all of this, boiled down to its essence, is show business of one form or another. And if that's the case, who's better at it than anybody else? Who's familiar with it? Who knows how to do show business media? Some people, when they're faced with the media, are simply compliant and polite and try to answer the questions, and others look at them as people with whom you have to engage in combat. And some say, I'd just rather them not be involved in what I'm doing at all. To hell with it. Why do I have to basically bow down and kiss their feet to get where I want to go? Trump is media savvy, knows TV, and a big part of knowing TV is not fearing it. That's why I have to chuckle when I hear people, oh, man, Trump is not looking good. Afraid of Megyn Kelly? What do you mean? How can you, if you're going to be afraid of Megyn Kelly, how are you going to negotiate with Putin? It isn't about being afraid of anybody. And by the way, let me restate something. Every syllable of commentary for me today is coming from a point of absolutely no support or opposition to one candidate or another. Nothing I say today is shaped by personal preference in this race. That's why I opened the program the way I did. I got to take a brief time out here. We'll come back. There's a lot of great audio sound bites on this to bounce off of, too, as well as your phone calls. And there's Democrat news out there as well. And there's updates on what happened in Houston yesterday with the grand jury and this whole Planned Parenthood thing. And how did that happen and what it all means. And I kept the story yesterday about New York City is going to allow public urination so that poor people and minorities who are doing it already can continue to do it and not be charged with any criminal activity and therefore not be stigmatized. They don't have anywhere else to go urinate because they're poor. You won't believe this, but it's true. All that And even stuff I haven't mentioned yet coming up. Don't go away. If I may, folks, let me remind you of a point that I have made on many previous occasions over and over again. There isn't any news anymore. The media is not news. Not in the sense that you turn to the media to find out what happened a couple hours ago that you didn't know, or what happened last night that you didn't know. That's what people think the news is. It isn't the news. The news, depending on where you get it, there's an agenda behind every bit of it. The drive-by media, mainstream media, is the Democrat Party agenda and how to advance it. And it consists of never-ending criticism and mocking of the Republican Party and conservatives. It's called news. It's called the news media, but there isn't any news. Oh, there may be some news on weekends when the agenda's gone to sleep for a while. They may be telling you what's going on at some, I don't know, national park with a fire or something. But there's no news anymore, every bit of it. And more, it's descending into show business, entertainment news of one degree or another. That's the reduction that is taking place here in much of, and by that I mean it's all personality-oriented. On both sides of the camera, on both sides of the microphone. Now, Trump isn't even unprecedented here. Have you remembered the RNC canceled a debate on NBC? Remember why? Because they didn't like the questions that were asked by the CNBC moderators, if you remember that. Remember, that was the debate where Ted Cruz stopped everything for a minute and said the questions being asked here are absurd, they're ridiculous, they're offensive, and they're distracting. Remember, everybody applauded all that. And the CNBC moderators smirked and laughed, and they chuckled, and even though they were being ripped to shreds, they thought, home run, man, we became the story. The idea that the media are not the story, don't make me laugh. The idea that the media gets out of the way, doesn't want to become the story, wrong-o. Who's going to pay you $6 million a year to anchor a program where you aren't the news? You have to. If they're going to pay you $6 million, $12 million, whatever it is, you better be the reason people are tuning in. And if you are the reason people tuning in, it's not that you're doing news. In the standard definition of the news, there's something else going on. And it's happening throughout the media. It's all now personal. It's all opinion in one degree or another. And the absurdo do reductum is show business. The absurdo do reductum. That, if you want to say a lowest common denominator, that's what it's all personality oriented. But the RNC told NBC, screw you guys, we're pulling the debate from your network in February. Did you see NBC spend 2 days? They can't. Oh, no. NBC did not act like a big happy. They just ignored. It's okay, fine. You don't want to debate here. I will kill you somewhere else. The RNC told National Review, you know what? We're not going to let you moderate the next debate. Why? What'd we do? Well, that anti-Trump issue you ran. There's our front runner. Screw you. You can't come here. So what Trump's doing is Bernie Sanders. I don't know if you care or if Bernie Sanders is. I'm not going to do the next Democrat debate. Now, Bernie's not going to go, not because of the moderators. See, the reason this with Trump is news is because he's saying the media are the reason. And the media, everything's about them. Do not think anything but everything's about, he's not showing up because of us. How dare he? Whatever. If Trump had said, I'm not showing up because I think Ted Cruz is whatever. I don't want to put up with Ted Cruz anymore. They would make news, but they wouldn't be righteously indignant and so forth. But it would not be covered nearly the same way as when the media, and don't think for a moment they don't love being the reason, because everybody wants to be the story. If you're on social media, you want everybody to know who you are and you want gazillions of followers. If you're in the broadcast media, you want everybody watching you knowing who you are because of what you do, not because of what anybody else does on your show. Here is Christine in Tucson as we head back to the phones. Great to have you on the program. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
My comment is we will get to see what it looks like without Donald Trump. Where would we be? What would we be talking about? And that leads to what will our country look like without Donald Trump in charge? It'll be the same old, and that's what it's going to be Thursday night. The same old Cruz and Rubio Senate campaign speeches that we've been hearing for years and years. Fix defense, repeal Obamacare.
So if I understand what you're saying since Trump won't be there, we're going to get to see what politics looks like without him, which is, no big deal. It's the same bunch of blow-dried candidates going on and on about this policy or that policy. Yeah, been there, done that, no big deal. That's how you think people are going to see it?
Yeah, we're going to see what it's like without Trump. Trump has been what we've talked about, and what did he talk about?
Yeah, but here's another thing about that, Christine. That the debates is where Trump is actually the least prominent. He actually does play by the rules when he shows up. He obeys the time limits. When the bell goes off, he shuts up. He's not nearly the same guy he is when he owns the stage at one of his own appearances. He goes out, he does these debates, and he's playing the game by the rules in those debates.
But most of the debates have been about Trump.
Well,
what do you think about Trump saying this? What do you think about Trump saying that?
Yeah, that's true. I have to admit that.
And I also think he's proving his skills at negotiation.
Right.
If he doesn't get what he goes in to negotiate with, he will walk away.
Okay, so I get it. Okay, so her thought is we're going to find out. This is what she's saying. We're going to find out how boring all this stuff really is Thursday night. Who wants to watch that? Folks, I want to let you in on another observation of mine. And that's all it is an observation. I have found when talking to people, including media people, in the East Coast, New York, well, all the way up and down the East Coast, but New York, Washington, Boston, down here, South Florida, and so forth, virtually everybody thinks of Fox News as a conservative network. But you go out, as I've traveled around and go places, like for the holidays, I see people in Missouri. Christmas, see people all over the place. Golf trips, I see people all over the country. And I'm here to tell you, Fox News is not considered the conservative network that it used to be. It's still. I'm not trying to stir anything up here. I'm saying that when you hear the media, who are all leftists, when you hear them talk about Fox News, it may as well be the John Birch Society as far as they're concerned. That's why they hate it. It may as well be the Birchers. It may as well be, whatever evil right-wing organization comes. That's what they think it is. But you go out to the heartland of this country, and it's not so much. I mean, what would a conservative network be doing, giving time to Michael Moore? Why would New York Times and Washington Post reporters be on the air to give opinions on a conservative? This is what people are saying out there that I hear. Now, the identity is still pretty obviously heavily tilted to news and analysis that you don't get anywhere else, and that remains true. I'm just telling you people's perceptions as they share them with me, and I'll tell you what I think. Because I find it amazing. It's just more evidence of the media being out of touch and not really knowing what people say. Since we're talking about Iowa, I don't think they really know what's important to the people of Iowa. Because they look at everything through their own prism of being in the Northeast and part of the liberal power structure that determines everything, social, political structure in that part of the country. And as such, there's a divide, and it's not just among elected officials. I speak constantly about the disconnect that exists now between elected officials and people, Republican and Democrat. The disconnect between the people who vote for them and the people that serve in office is bigger than I've ever seen it. And it's no more obvious than on the issue of immigration. But it's also obvious on the issue of, say, Obamacare or any number of spending. And when you start talking about Fox News, people in the media, just embarrassing right wing. My God, yeah. But it's not thought of that way in many parts of the country. We've got a new bunch of polling data in here from Monmouth University about Iowa. And I guess the news here is that Rubio's moving up a little bit. Here are the numbers. Donald Trump is at 30. Ted Cruz is at 23. This is likely caucus goers being asked who they will caucus for. So this is the equivalent of a likely voter poll. This is likely caucus goers. Remember, one of the things being thrown out about Trump is, well, we don't even know if his supporters are going to show up. We don't even know if they know how to. We don't even know if Trump supporters know where to go to caucus, and then once they get there, if they know what to do. So, point being, yeah, Trump's leading in the polls, but what if his voters don't show up? What if his caucus goers don't? So they went out at Monmouth, they did a poll. Likely caucus goers. Trump 30, Cruz 23, Marco Rubio at 16, which is a move up. Here's Rich in White Plains, New York. Hello, Rich. Great to have you with us.
Hey, Rush. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Rush, there's a fundamental flaw in the debate process that's being overlooked. There's a conflict of interest when the ratings-driven broadcast network provides the moderators where the questioning isn't issue-driven but intended to start infighting between the candidates or, like you said before, shine the spotlight on the moderator with their great but stupid gotcha questions. And I think these debates should be conducted by Hillsdale College, National Review, or the Heritage Foundation, and let the highest bidder in the universe of broadcast networks point the cameras and set up the microphones.
The highest bidders? You mean as opposed to assigning it by some debate commission?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how that would work, Rush. Maybe you would know better. I mean, if that were the format where they were independent, the people putting on the debate, and then how you would go about getting a broadcast network to
Let me translate what I think you're really saying, and you tell me if I'm on the mark or not. Seems to me your real point is that we wouldn't even be talking about this if it weren't for the fact that debate moderators end up being so damn important to this process when they
exactly
ought
right,
not
right?
be.
Absolutely. You got it. That is exactly right.
That's why I sit in this chair, folks. I make that complex understandable. It's a good point. I think your point reflects the thinking of a lot of people. I know my dad. My dad he lived and breathed this stuff, and he had the same attitude you do. Why are these people? Why his idea? Put blindfolds on the media people. We don't even know who they are. They should just be in the background. Anybody can ask questions we want to have the answers to. But they become as important as the candidates. That's part of the game, folks. That's the rule, because it's showbiz. Don't forget, this is, as much as we might want to think that civics and public responsibility and the issues of the day and finding the best candidates, making sure that we are best equipped to deal with the evil in the world that opposes us and the right economic policies. Don't forget that before we get there, we have to make sure that the noted stars get their due along the way. Candidates, media people, moderate, you name it. Endorsers. I'm not trying. No. It is what it is. That's why you have to wade through the noise here. That's what I mean by making it complex understandable. It's a great point that he's raising here. This is Donna in Gilbert, Arizona, as we head back. Great to have you, Donna. Hi.
Hi. Good to be with you.
Thank you.
Now, this is something I'm really passionate about, so I'll try and calm myself down.
No. Let her rip.
All right. Megyn Kelly, I have been watching her since she first came on the air in Fox News, okay? And I'm a Fox News junkie, and so I'm not an expert, but it's been a long time of viewing that I've been doing this. So first let me say that I think she is as brilliant as she is beautiful. I praise her to all my friends. I love watching her. And why do I like watching her? Because she has a controlled edge, fearlessness, professionalism, and I'm hooked on her. Therefore, the night of the debate that we were all just watching, because Trump has just stirred this whole campaign up, this whole campaign process. So we're all watching. First thing out of the gate comes her question. And the minute she started talking, I'm going to myself, wait a minute, Megan, where are you going with this? Why are you using that tone? Where's my controlled edge person that I'm so used to? She crossed a line to me, and she became someone that I hadn't seen in all the years that I've been watching her. She went outside of herself. Her voice tone, her inflection, it was like an attack. And then after that, whatever, Donald smoothed it over as best he could. And the whole rest of the debate, I'm going, why, Megan? Why? What did that accomplish? Why did you make that about yourself?
Well, what did you think? How did you answer your own question?
That she, in all this perfection that she is, because she is pretty spot on all the time. She's human. And I honestly believe that, I don't think she hates Donald Trump, but I think everything that you were touching on, which you have done brilliantly today, I was just glued to my car radio, is that Trump is outside of what everyone is used to. He's a threat. I think to her, she thought to her, you're a threat to these other gentlemen that have been in politics for a long time. And I think she wanted, and I don't want to say gotcha, because then that really makes her bad.
No,
but that's what she did. If actions speak louder than words, it was unprofessional. It was not Meghan-like. It made me sad for her. It ruined the whole debate for me, because then it put this dark, negative cloud over the whole thing. And then let me just say one more thing.
Yes.
There was a small window of time after that debate and it's like when you have an argument with a friend or a spouse or something. There was a small window of time where she still could have saved face by saying, I don't regret my question, because it was, the truth or what is documented. But I regret saying it the way I did, and I regret not taking into the fact that Donald Trump has not been in politics his whole life. He's a businessman. I don't know how she could have done it, but I wish they hadn't have thrown the gauntlet down and said, we're standing behind Meghan.
Well, see, that's my... No. There's an old axiom out there, Donna, and that is you never apologize. You never admit, and you never apologize. I mean, something like this. I mean, there are exceptions to that. But it's an interesting take. I think, let's not forget, folks, I need to remind you again, we're talking about the August 6th debate. And before that debate, I could go back to the archives. I could find all the stories that were circulating. They were rumors that orders had been given from on high somewhere at the RNC, from the donor class or what, take Trump out. Remember, one of the rumors going around was that Fox News was going to take Trump out for the sake of preserving the established order in the Republican Party. Trump had heard those rumors. I mean, everybody had. It was the thing everybody was buzzing about. And I don't think there was any doubt that back then, hey, look, this is exactly what does happen. Here's this giant outsider coming in here and all of a sudden owning the game. It's not going to last. And so the powers that be said, we're going to marshal our forces. This guy doesn't know what he's up against. This guy's never played our game. This guy, he's from a different, we're going to take him out. We're going to get rid of this right now. We're going to nip this in the bud. A lot of people believed the rumors. And no doubt Trump heard them as well. Anyway, I appreciate, Donna, the call. I appreciate it. We'll be back after this and continue. Don't go away. Welcome back, folks. El Rushmo with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Now, while all this is going on, two of the leading socialists in America met at the White House today. Bernie Sanders and Barack Hussein O. Now, I don't know what the occasion was. Do you know why Bernie went there? Was this have to do what's going? There's something not right about this. Oh, is that what it was? Okay, so Obama praised Hillary, almost sounded like an endorsement. Of course, because you hear what Hillary's saying, folks. There's not going to be. I'm here to tell you right now, there's not going to be an indictment on Hillary. The FBI is going to have to revolt because it ain't going to happen. Hillary's out there saying, you know what? You know who'd be the next greatest judge on the Supreme Court? It'd be Barack Obama. So Obama comes back and practically endorses Hillary, and Bernie says, wait a minute. So Bernie requested a meeting, meet his fellow socialist in the White House. They had the meeting today. Bernie is not committing to the next Democrat debate, by the way. But it's not because the moderators are going to be unfair, so it's not news. But here's what Bernie said after finishing his meeting with his fellow socialist.
7 years ago, when President Bush left office, this country was hemorrhaging 800,000 jobs a month. We were running a $1.4 trillion deficit, largest in our country's history. And by the way, sometimes we forget the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. It's also important to remember how far we have come in the last 7 years.
Oh, gag
President
me
and I
with a spoon here.
discussed this morning a number of issues, foreign policy issues, domestic issues, occasionally a little bit of politics. But I enjoyed the meeting, and I thought it was a very positive and constructive
Okay, so
meeting.
the two leading socialists in America concluded it's still Bush's fault. I mean, that's the essence of it. The nation's top two socialists meet at the White House, conclude everything remains the fault of George W. Bush. Mike, in a truck, driving the back roads of Maine. Great to have you on the program, sir.
Maharashi, a hero. What's going on, man?
You tell me. You're the one driving around in Maine.
Well, besides all the liberalism leaking everywhere, we're doing okay. Listen, man, I'm from Sikeston, Missouri, grew up there, 30 minutes away from your hometown, so I went to your mural in Cape Girardeau and prayed 3 times a day. I'm a huge fan, been listening since the Limbaugh eruptions. I'm 30 years old.
Thank you very much.
And I love you very much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you've done for conservatism.
Thank you very much. He's talking about my mural on the flood wall on the Mississippi River. Yeah. Don't give people the wrong idea.
A beautiful, beautiful effigy. Listen, hey, permission to speak freely, sir.
You got it.
All right. I'm just calling in today because I just want to put a shot of adrenaline in the Conservative Party, okay? I've been watching. I've been listening. Everybody's complaining about these debaters. Everybody's complaining about the formats, not showing. I tell you, Ted Cruz, this guy, you refer, I hear you use the phrase, and I know it's a phrase that's been used, the happy warrior. The hotter they turn up the heat, the better this guy gets, the better he gets. And I'm telling you, I don't care who they put in front of him, what questions they ask. It doesn't matter. We know who the media is. We know how the media works. They've been the same.
Mike, I've got to step in because we're out of time here. See if he has time to hold on because he didn't get where he's going here. I was patient, but there's something he wants to ask, and we'll give him a chance to hear me. Back in 2011, 5 years ago, Donald Trump praised Megyn Kelly as a debate moderator. That and much more coming up when we get back. And we're back at it ladies and gentlemen, El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone. Analysis and insight unavailable anywhere else. Always great to have you here. Always, it's just a thrill. I look forward each and every day to being here with you guys. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I want to go back to Mike, who's driving around the truck. He's from Sikeston, Missouri. It's 30 miles south of where I grew up in Cape Girardeau. And he was, you wanted to talk about Cruz. Obviously a big Cruz supporter. You've got a very positive attitude about Cruz and his intellect and his ability to take the heat. Where were you going with that?
Well, my question is, obviously, as Cruz is rising in the polls, Donald's taking him on more and seeing him as an enemy. I wanted to combat him, which is, rightly so, as any candidate would do. My question is, how do you think Cruz is handling the heat? How is he handling the news side of Trump, that he's seeing the abrasiveness of Trump coming from Trump and not just another member of his party, the Senate, or the media?
I think he's handling it well. I think he's known that it was coming, and I think he's amped up well for it and prepared well for it. And I think he will probably take full advantage. If Trump actually doesn't show up tomorrow night, I think he's going to take full advantage of it. And the other candidates will try to as well. But I don't think you can make Ted Cruz wilt. I don't think there's any kind of heat that's going to cause him to shrink. He rises to the occasion. The thing about Ted Cruz is that you never have to doubt. You never have to doubt his conservatism. And you can be totally confident that that's who he is. He's not going to have to remember what to say when. It's in his heart. It is part of his fabric. It's the essence of who he is. And so he is able to articulate it, explain it, implement it in ways that are infectious and positive, and he never wavers from it. He is a committed, true believer. And I say this in comparison to somebody like Romney, who is not conservative but wanted people to think that he was. Those kinds of people have to study conservatism. They do it with people who have a misunderstanding of it. And so they come up with phrases that they think will be persuasive, that will convince conservatives that they're one of them. But they always blow it. God bless him, Mitt Romney describing himself as a severe conservative. Well, cat was out of the bag. There's no such thing. But he was trying to tell people, he was trying to assure conservatives he's committed. He meant to say that he was committed, rock solid conservative, but there's no such thing as severe conservative. But somebody who's not conservative and has a negative impression of it will think of somebody who's committed to it as a severe. It's not a positive or uplifting laudatory term. My point is, with Ted Cruz, there's no phoniness here. There's no pretense. And he's not gaming you. He's not something else, pretending better than anybody else to be a conservative. And I don't think, Mike, you have any worries at all that he's going to wilt to a challenge or from a challenge. I mean, it's not very many people that would go to the floor of the Senate and openly proclaim that the leader of his party in the Senate flat out lied to him on the floor of the Senate. There are not too many people who would do that precisely because of the fear of the blowback on something like that. So Cruz is everything you want. He is he's a true believer. He is confident and has the ability to inspire. And he's so much so that I'll tell you what's going to happen. I think you look down the road here, looking through the proverbial crystal ball. If either one of these guys wins, either Trump or Cruz, and I don't think we could say this about any of the others in the race, if either one of those men is elected president, the entirety of the Washington establishment is going to be out sabotaging them, whatever their agenda is. They're going to be stabbed in the back by members of both parties as payback. Remember, Washington is not conservative. The Republican Party per se is not conservative. The last thing the Washington, as Cruz calls it, the cartel, the last thing the Washington cartel wants is anybody whittling it away. There's nobody in Washington that wants it to get any smaller. There's nobody in Washington who wants it to get any poorer. There's nobody in Washington that wants any less attention, less focus, less power emanating from the place. And Trump and Cruz present a challenge to that in different ways. Cruz's challenge is that he is a full-fledged conservative, and his objective is going to be to reduce the size of government, to limit the government's role in everyday life, to cut taxes, to therefore reduce the amount of revenue flowing into Washington. He is going to do everything he can to pare down the welfare state and bring some sort of fiscal responsibility, coupled with a associated increase in individual liberty and freedom. Cruz believes that it's the people who make the country work, that it's not Washington or policy. He thinks that stuff gets in the way. He wants to broom it, get as much of it out of the way as he can. Well, everybody in Washington lives off of government, Leviathan. The bigger it is, the better. The bigger and more money it's got, the more money there is to get. The last thing they want is Washington being de-emphasized. So they'll be out to sabotage Cruz. When it comes to Trump, Trump is going to be implementing his own agenda, and he'll be trying to do it without people in Washington if he has to. But precisely because he doesn't play the game, precisely because he breaks the rules, these guys are going to do everything they can to try to sabotage anything he wants. In fact, folks, it's so bad that I have no doubt that the degree of sabotage would be such that even if it's harmful to the country in a temporary basis, it will still happen. Because we're talking about people who want to preserve the things that create their standard of living. Make no mistake, that's what all this. Washington is the greatest source of revenue. Look at all the people that feed off that trough there. I mean, it's not just elected officials. It's not just the lobbyists. There are more people doing nothing in Washington and getting paid for it than you could shake a stick at, under the guise of policy creation or analysis or writing, whatever it is. I mean, it's just people all over that town. People are trying to game the regulatory system for themselves. But the point is, it's where the money is. That's what attracts people to it. Not ideology, not ideas. It took me a long time to learn this, and I'm so naive. I always had these Civics 101 thoughts running around my head that everybody there was actually interested in doing the best thing for the country and the people, and they're not. They're trying to do the best thing for themselves. And it makes total sense. The U.S. Treasury, which collects about $3 trillion a year, happens to be in Washington. Why wouldn't a whole bunch of people who want some of that money go there? And that's what it is. And they're trying to get their hands on whatever amount they can in whatever way that can be seen as legitimate as they can dream up. And both these guys, Trump and Cruz, in their own different ways, present a threat to that quote-unquote order. So both will be deeply sabotaged. The attempts to deny them policy success, agenda success, to thwart every move they make, to make them look ineffective or what have you. Your question really is, how will Cruz bear up under all that? With everybody in that town ganging up against, he'll do just fine. He'll do the same thing Trump would do. Go right over their heads and go right to you, right to the country, get on media, however which way they can, and tell you what's going on. Because the election of either one of those two men contains a message, and that is Washington has to change. It's got to be reduced. It's got to be whittled down. It's got to become less dominant and less of a factor in everybody's day-to-day life. And the people that live and work there, and by the way, when I say derive their standard of living, that's exactly what I mean. It's their job Their job is government, one way or another. That's how they earn their living. And the unemployment rate where they live is only 3%. And the per capita income is sky high. You want to talk about the wealth gap? The real wealth gap you need to talk about is the wealth gap between people who live in Washington and people that don't. So either one of these two people, Cruz or Trump, present an existential threat to the established order. It would be like, let me see if I can come up with a golf analogy. It would be like if the Des Moines JCs decided to take over Augusta National. The people at Augusta, there's just no way. Whatever. That may not be the perfect analogy, but hopefully it makes the nothing against the Des Moines JCs. That's not that. Don't take it that way at all. Back to the phones we go to East Jordan, Michigan. Linwood, great to have you on the program. Hello.
Thank you, Rush. Hey, this is a great show today. You've answered questions far and above what I'd anticipated. The point that I wanted to make was when I got up this morning and listened to the early news and realized what was happening, it hit me like a ton of bricks that this election has really come down to what our founding fathers put forth in personal liberty, free market economy, and our Judeo-Christian values. That was the formula for the success of this country. And this election is about those values versus government. It's as simple as that. And
what was it? What was it in the news today, Linwood, that brought that into focus for you? What hit you?
It was the seeing the way that Fox News and earlier in your show, the way that you addressed that was right on. And the lady that called with the reaction, to Megyn Kelly back in August at the debate, I had a similar reaction to that. And, when you take Trump, Carly, and Ben Carson out of the equation, everybody represents government. And everybody, and government, therefore, is, it's as you said, that's the way the game is played. It's government telling us what to do. We are governed by consent of the governed. And that's what Washington has forgotten. Which, by the way, your Rush Revere series is really great, and if I might add, your arguments are so compelling when you allow your Judeo-Christian values, your faith, to come forth to make those points. And I applaud you for that. I love you for it. Pray for you, you and your wife, and I just really appreciate being able to listen to your comments.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. You're very insightful, and I'm flattered. I would include Ted Cruz in your list of people with Fiorina and Ben Carson and Trump. But let me veer into something here. I touched on this. If you missed it, you might want to check the transcript or listen to the first half hour of the program today at rushlimbaugh.com. I want to go back to Megyn Kelly because she's under assault here from a lot of places today, including on this program. There have been some callers. She's had her supporters who said they were disappointed. There have been others who have been critical in the sense that these reporters are just getting too big and have become the story, not just a part of the story, but the story, and they're not, and they're overshadowing things and so forth. And I have this two-pronged thing here. I've got this little story of Mediaite from August 25th of this past year. This is after, of course, the September 6th debate, or the August 6th debate, when all this blew up in the first place. Donald Trump has been criticizing Megyn Kelly all over the place for asking him tough questions at the GOP debate, but he was singing a far different tune 4 years ago. Back in late 2011, Trump sat down with Kelly and talked about hosting a Republican debate. Yet for those of you who don't remember, back in 2011, Trump floated the idea of him moderating a Newsmax Republican debate because, quote, I know the issues better than most. The debate did not happen. Trump said that there are a lot of debate moderators who don't know anything about the big issues America faces. Megyn Kelly said, do you really think you're a better moderator than I am? And Trump said, no way, Megyn. No, I could never beat you. That wouldn't even be close. That would be no contest. You have done a great job, by the way, and I mean it. So that was Trump back in 2011. Obviously, things have transpired, and they're different, and things have changed here. But I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I know Megyn Kelly. I'm not in her circle of close friends, but she's been to my home. We've been out a couple of times. She was at my wedding, and I just want to stick up for her in one regard here. She is extremely professional. She prides herself in being professional. She takes what she does very seriously. She has long-term ambition. She is ambitious. Nothing wrong with being ambitious whatsoever. She is something that she takes very seriously, what she does, and she can take the heat as well as anybody else can. But I don't think Megyn Kelly is anybody's weapon. I mean, she's self-contained, and she's who she is. She has the same kind of professional aspirations that anybody else in the business does. And she's very, very grateful and gratified for the success that she's had and the people who've helped her along the way. She's not a bad person. Yeah, well, before I forget this, since I have promised this a couple days here, from a website called the Political Insider, which is actually using source material from Crain's, New York, Crain's Business, Crain's, New York. So it's not just this website that you may not have heard of. The actual source here is Crain's, New York, business publication. Left-wingers who run New York City are about to make it 100% legal to urinate in public. Sturdley can't believe this. Even now, he can't believe it. Why are they going to do this? I'm just going to read what it says here. Because many minorities have been arrested for it. They would rather legalize the behavior than enforce basic rules of public sanitation. From Crain's, New York, urinating and drinking in public would no longer be treated as crimes under a package of bills New York City Council will consider to ease enforcement of quality of life offenses that lawmakers say clog the courts and have been disproportionately enforced against minorities. So, there are just too many people urinating in public. There are too many people violating basic hygiene in public. It's clogging the courts. It's impossible to enforce. And besides that, the majority of the perps are minorities. We just don't feel right. And we don't feel right. And it's not fair that they should, it's not their fault they don't have anywhere else to urinate. So why we don't want to hold that against them, because life is already stacked against them enough as it is because they're minorities. The city council stated, scheduled a January 25th hearing on the proposed laws, supported by the council speaker, Melissa Mark Viverito, plus a majority of her 50 colleagues, and the police commissioner, it says here. That's what makes me doubt this. And Bill Bratton's on board for this? The proposal would remove the possibility of permanent criminal records for public urination and violating park rules, mostly treating them as civil offenses, along with public drinking, littering, and excessive noise. According to the New York Times, one liberal official who sponsored this change noted it was designed to help minorities reach their full potential. To pee in, I'm telling you, I don't. Here's a quote from Ms. Mark Viverito. We know that the system has been really rigged against communities of color in particular. So the question's always been, What can we do in this job to minimize the unnecessary interaction with the criminal justice system so these young people can really fulfill their potential? And it says here it's a far step away from the tough rules implemented by Rudy, who cleaned up the streets with his broken window polish. This sounds like it's from The Onion. This sounds like this. Yes, we're going to not enforce the laws on public urination because most of them are minorities. We feel so bad for them. There's so many of them clogging the court system now, and it's denying them their full potential. This reads like it's from one of those satire sites. But that's what it says. Crane's New York, quoting the New York Times in there. Look, let's wait to find out this is real before we start reacting here like this. This is kind of one of the reasons I've been at arm's length with this thing. It doesn't sound believable. Not even liberals, if they really think this, are stupid enough to talk this way. In other words, public urination will be allowed so that people can reach their full potential. I don't doubt that de Blasio thinks it, but I can't believe these guys are running around to actually say it. To be quoted in the New York Times. Here's Connie in Hartford, Connecticut. We head back to the phones. Hi, Connie. Great to have you here.
Hi, Rush. I feel kind of bad dissing Megan after you gave her such praises, but I'm not in agreement about her professionalism, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
She had on the mother of one of the victims of Benghazi, and this poor woman was obviously suffering still 3 years later. And after this woman, she made a statement, and the mother said, bull feathers. She went, oh, Betty, I know. But they're saying there's nothing that they could do. It's like she poured salt into the wounds of this poor lady.
I didn't see that.
If you could dial it back up, look at it. It was just like, I almost blame Fox a little bit, too.
But wait a minute. What actually happened? She had a Benghazi mother on, and she did what?
The mother was grieving.
Yeah.
And it was after Hillary did 11 hours of testimony.
Oh, yeah.
And then she brought the mother up, and the mother was so upset. I felt so bad for that poor lady. And
was the mother critical of Hillary? Was the mother saying Hillary lied to Hillary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And, she came out and said, oh, bull feathers. And the woman was...
And what did Megan do?
And Megan said, oh, Betty, I know, but they say there's nothing that they can do. And I was like, are you kidding me? It was almost like Fox should have taken her off the air. So bad for that lady.
Are you sure it wasn't that Megan was commiserating?
I wanted to believe that, but I just something was wrong at that time. I'm not a fan of hers.
Yeah. Okay, well, that I understand that. But look, this is one of the, not to make this personal, this is one of the reasons that I'm not crazy about TV. The number of times I was misunderstood. I can't tell you the number of times. Well, I had my own TV show, for one. I thought I had a great show, and I'd go home and I'd start listening to feedback, and people were complaining about my tie, or some extraneous stuff, or that I should have said something other than what I said. I said, this never happens after a radio show. It never happens after a radio show. And I concluded that people watch and pay attention to TV in an entirely different way than they do radio, and I know why. I have figured it out. Radio, I think, is the most powerful, influential medium out there in the hands of somebody who knows how to do it, because there's only one sense of perception you're using, and that's hearing. And everything else, it's up to a talented host using your imagination to provide the pictures. But TV provides the pictures, which is a distraction from what you're hearing. But, boy, that's why I've always believed that radio, there's nothing more intimate, done right, done well. There's no, and it's because of this intimacy that can be achieved. Now, don't misunderstand. People are excellent on TV, and like Oprah, she can build the same kind of bond. Trump's great on TV. but they enjoy it and so forth. I mean, I don't have an active dislike for it. It's just I prefer this. So there's a bunch of other reasons. TV is a giant collaboration, even when you're a guest. And I've never had a meeting before this show. Never. I've never had a meeting. I just come here and do it. And television, for every hour, there's probably 2.5 hours of meetings, if not more, to go into it. And you have to collaborate. And I'm not a collaborator. I am a solo flyer. So I have varying different reasons. But I've also learned that people perceive things entirely differently when they're watching TV, as opposed to listening to radio or talking to people in person. Anyway, Connie, I appreciate the call. Thanks much. Brief timeout. Back with much more after this. You know, folks, I got a little bit of guilt here. We had just a really interesting roster of sound bites, and I just didn't get to them today. And it's some great stuff from Trump. Examples of people in the media. There's a lot of people in the drive-bys that just think Trump is pulling off a brilliant maneuver here. It's all rooted in their hatred of Fox. But and there's sound bites here from Trump as well. And the problem with holding them over is that there's going to be others tomorrow that will replace these. But Cookie, keep these handy for tomorrow. You never know what's going to happen between now and then. And some of these things are gems. And there's a couple in here involving me about this whole thing where I have again been misreported as having said that populism and nationalism have usurped conservatism. I didn't say it. And furthermore, I was quoting another writer who postulated it, and I have been discussing it as a what if it's true. But here, NPR, they asked Rich Lowry about it again. Rush Limbaugh, they don't think it's a bad thing that nationalism and populism have overtaken conservatism. And they take that quote out of context without any acknowledgement that it's a question that I'm asking. They assert that it's something I'm saying and then ask conservatives to react to it. This is like the third or fourth day in a row of this. Anyway, not to say that we've covered everything and in great detail. And one other thing here, Megyn Kelly doesn't need to be defended, and I'm not trying to embarrass her by doing so. I'm just, if you go back to the first half hour of the program, and if you missed it, it'll be at rushlimbaugh.com. It's probably up there now. It's the transcript and the audio. But she's a professional and she's ambitious and she's trying to be the best she can be. And not everybody is the same in the way they happen to conduct themselves in the media. And so forth. She's breathing some pretty rarefied air there. I mean, there are very few people who have reached her level, and she's the best. I've been able to determine that she is doing her best to not let it get away from her ego-wise. I mean, she takes the job very seriously. She doesn't assume anything. It's something that she thinks she's got to get up and work hard at and prove every day. So, I know there have been a lot of people criticizing her here today, and so forth. She doesn't need me to defend her. I'm just sharing some things about her I know to keep all this in some kind of perspective. She may have been trying to embarrass Trump. She may have been trying to put Trump through the ringer. This is what journalists do with candidates. That's what I meant earlier about the game and the rules. And Trump just doesn't want to play. He's not going to put up with it. He doesn't think he should have to. Why subject himself to unfriendlies when it isn't necessary? Everybody else says, that's what I got to do. This is the game. These are the rules. The media shows up for a debate, put up with whatever they do. Trump says, the hell with putting up with what they do. The hell with that. I'm running this show. I'm not going to put up with them insulting me. The hell with that. So that's where we are. Here is Linda, Grand Junction, Colorado. Glad you waited. Hello.
Hi. Thanks. Thank you, Rush, for taking my phone call.
You bet.
My question was two people that I think that you've had on your show so far that have called Megyn Kelly, unprofessional. My question is, when they ask that why do they not think Donald Trump is unprofessional? His comments that he made about her personally, or made of other candidates personally attacking them, do you not think that's unprofessional?
Well, you see, this is a very interesting and good point. People throughout the political spectrum are asking themselves, how in the name of Sam Hill does this guy survive by talking about her being on the wrong time of the month in that debate, by mentioning the blood? How does he survive saying he has no respect for McCain being a POW? There are people asking that question all over the place. And the fact that he is not hurt by any of that, they've sort of given up in frustration. It's one of the great, great mysteries of his whole campaign, one that in which I have endeavored to explain. And it's all rooted, the answer is all rooted in what I continue to call the bond that Trump has built with his supporters and so forth. But sadly, at this moment, we're out of time for further detail, which means don't miss tomorrow. Well, another exciting excursion into broadcast excellence. Total la completa. But we are back tomorrow, revved and ready and loaded for whatever happens to come our way. Have a great rest of the day, and thanks so much for being here, folks.